a stay-at-home dad, watching Disney movies he never had. His daughter digs through all the VHS, crushing the classics in a princess dress. Informed like Scuttle, Kurt's got your ticket, making it real like Jiminy Cricket. Most are off the Captain Hook, but if the Tweedledum, he'll be taking more shots than Bambi's mom. Leaves him raised like Simba, or cracked like the beach dishes. He'll show you a whole new world, you won't need 3 wishes. Stay at home, Disney Dad.
I shudder that I'm old enough to work with people who don't know who Patrick Swayze is or who he was. This is the man who pushed millions of teenage girls into puberty back in the 80s between Dirty Dancing and Ghost. While the dudes loved his badassness in Roadhouse and Point Break, Swayze was one of those actors that everyone loved. Men and women, sure for different reasons, but everyone loved this guy. I cannot believe we have a Disney movie with Patrick Swayze. Hell, I'm still Swayze crazy and not ashamed to admit it. Tall Tale VHS says it's a rousing, rollicking romp. Gonna pretend I didn't read that and just keep going. Patrick Swayze, everyone. Hold on. Oliver Platt, Nick Stahl, Catherine O'Hara, and Swayze, all in one movie. This has got to be like a Trivial Pursuit game-winning question in some universe. We start in blue, like for some reason everything is blue, and some farm kid watches as some weird old-timey car drives into the farm, but he's suddenly talking to his mom who's hanging laundry. Oh, he's telling his mom about this horseless buggy he saw. Straight from the future it was. She doesn't believe him. She says, "Pa's in the barn tending to Samson." And that's a really fun euphemism. Oh, Samson's the horse. Okay, I'm sorry. I was gonna say, I'll bet Swayze made the 80s ladies tend to Samson a lot. He tries telling his dad about the horseless carriage, and his dad is like, "Shut the up, you little idiot. This is a farm, and things need to be done on time." And the kid looks his father in the face and says he hates this farm, and he wishes his dad would just sell it. Dad says he slaves for something worth something, and his son throws it back in his face like it don't mean nothing. The Patrick Swayze. I'm ready to have the time of my life. Come on. I hope he shows up and teaches the sleepy town to dance once again. I know that was Kevin Bacon, but it was such a good plot. But damn, I love coffee. Pa tries to have a one-on-one with his son, and his son is still sassing his dad. He's heard of all Dad's stories, all of Dad's tall tales of Pecos Bill. Dad swears Pecos Bill is as real as you or me. Is Swayze Pecos Bill? Mom and Dad are fighting. She wants him to sell the farm and he refuses. She says, "Why you always gotta be the hero?" He gets his gun and he heads out, and she's like, "This isn't one of your stories, man, that you tell your son. Go, girl." Dad leaves and Daniel, the son, chases out after him. There's a town hall meeting, and that high rootin' tootin' falutin' dude with a horseless buggy, he's dressed like the Undertaker, and he strolls in. He says he knows how hard it is to be a farmer, and he's glad he got out when he did. Now he's giving them all the chance to get out as well. He offers the people $50 an acre, and the crowd murmurs, because like that's a lot of money, and you can buy a new house. And Mr. Hackett, this hero, stands up and goes, "And then what? What happens once you and your partners are done ripping up this city?" He holds up a paper and he says, "This is a deed to my farm. My farm! This is where my dad's buried, and this is where I'm going to be buried. That's worth more than $50 an acre. I ain't selling." Stomp. Harumph. Dad hears someone following him, though, as soon as he leaves the meeting. He whips out his gun, but it's his own son hiding in the shadows. He hears a commotion. He gives the deed to his son, and he goes, "You take this and you run. Don't give it to no one." A mob comes around and corners the stubborn old farmer because he won't sell his property. They have him at gunpoint, and they check him for the deed, and the Undertaker says, "The deed must have been given to the kid. And rest in peace." It's a terrible Undertaker. Okay. If the kid gives you any... Oh, he's like, if you find the kid, if the kid gives you any trouble, you kill him, and then blam, they like shoot the dad or something. The next day, the doctor tells the crowd that he's done everything he can for the dad. It's in God's hands now if the dad lives or dies. Everyone is spooked and they're like, well, I'm selling my property. I don't want to get shot. Daniel runs into the dock and he cries in this little boat and his tears are magic and the boat comes untied and the boat flows away as he cries himself to sleep. He wakes up in his boat in a desert, okay, and 2 desert hillbillies rob him at gunpoint. They put hands all over the kid, force his mouth open and count his fillings. They argue about who gets to kill the kid, and this is dark as f***, but it's all set to like bumbling music, so I guess that makes it okay. The kid is just standing there with his hands up, ready to be shot, and suddenly the bad guys, blam, 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 get their trigger fingers shot off, which was an important part of one of the stories Dad always tells about you-know-who. It's Pico's f***ing Bill, who appears in a dust storm, and then fire up the pottery wheel, because it is Patrick Swayze. He's riding a horse, he saves the kid's life, and when the kid asks who he is, he says, I'm a ring-tailored roarer. I can draw faster, shoot straighter, ride harder, and drink longer than any man alive. I'm the rip-snortingest cowboy. The kid interrupts him and goes, do you have a name? And he goes, I'm getting to that. He just continues, that ever rode north, south, east, or west. I'm the Rio Grande. I'm Pico's Bill. The bad guys are just standing there, and he goes, lucky for you guys, I never kill on a Sunday. And the robbers go, it's Wednesday. And he goes, so it is, and starts shooting them. That's really funny. Cowboy Swayze is money. Pico's Bill is like, let's go north. Let's go to your home, to Paradise Valley, so I can kick some ass. The kid goes, you do that for me? He goes, you have some unfinished business. We cut to the Undertaker and his crony. They can't find the kid, so they can't find the deed, so they can't own 100% of Paradise Falls. That's a problem. Pico says, let's stop and get some help from Paul Bunyan. Yeah, Swayze isn't really meant for this like light comedy. He's treating this like an SNL sketch, but it's still awesome. They ask this crew of steam engine workers if they know where Paul Bunyan is, and no one does except for an old-timey worker who says, Paul picked up and left when the first steam engine arrived. Wah, wah. There's a wanted poster out for the kid now. So Swayze and the kid get jumped everywhere they go now. Everyone wants that deed and the reward. Daniel gets knocked out and lands on a conveyor belt that's feeding this giant log. That's feeding giant logs into this saw, and I can't tell if this is like Scooby-Doo or MacGyver. Pico's Bill swings from a hanging rope in the warehouse like Tarzan, and instead of rolling off the conveyor belt, the kid just covers his head. Picos can't get to the kid in time, so he pulls out his 6-shooters and he fires bullets at the giant saw blade until it comes to a stop. Okay, sure. They find Paul Bunyan and Swayze calls him Log Brain. Got him. Got him, Swayze. Next, they find John Henry and they do the man versus machine wager. I'm sorry, what was this famous like American thing? I googled it and Wikipedia says, quote, it was a duel against a drilling machine, and that sounds like every day for my wife. The kid helps Henry, but they lose in the end. They lose the competition. Swayze says, you gave it his best, so you got nothing to be embarrassed about. And when Swayze gives you life advice, you f***ing listen. The bad guys find a bunch of shot-off trigger fingers, so they know what's up. They know who's behind it. They talk about the code, and John Henry jumps down the kid's throat. What do you know about the code? Knowing about it and living by it are 2 different things, boy. Okay, settle down. Diffuse. Swayze, though, is just so cool. There's bullies in the bar, and he's just so smooth. He knows he can roundhouse kick every out of their boots in the saloon. He constantly diffuses every hostile situation until he toasts Texas, and the bully beside him bashes Texas, and then the haymakers get thrown. And just as the bar fight starts getting good, Calamity Jane shows up, and it's the mom from Schitt's Creek. She shoots all the way around Swayze, because I guess he stepped out on her back in the day or something. And of course he did. He's Patrick Swayze. You can't lock that up. Now, can we just pause and appreciate that there's a Disney movie where Patrick Swayze cheated on Catherine O'Hara? Just fantastic. The 3 dudes end up in jail, but Nick Stahl, or Daniel, used a giant blue ox and a rope to like pull the jail cell forward, but then the goons chase the kid. The blue ox stopped pulling because Swayze called it dumb, and now he has to apologize to the ox. Can we pause for a second and appreciate that there's a Disney movie where Patrick Swayze is apologizing to a giant blue ox. The ox feels seen and pulls the wall off the cell after all, and the trio escape and kick some ass. The bad guy and the bowler is closing in on Nick Stahl as they climb the water tower. This feels very Batman 89 or like Dick Tracy. Bowler wants the deed and they have a showdown atop the water tower. He tries to stab the boy, which is pretty dark, but Stahl falls off the water tower and his pals catch him and they make a break for it. this is such a VHS movie, you know what I mean? Like, it's dusk in this next scene, and the dark blues on my screen are just so grainy. Like, it doesn't deserve to be in better quality. Like, this movie would not work in HD. Okay, we get to the sad part of the story where Daniel tries to complain about his situation with his dad, and the railroad guy's like, my daddy was sold into slavery, and I never saw him again. Trumped that story real quick. Nick Stahl tells them about the stars and astrology, and they all think that's nothing but a tall tale. They're trekking through the desert now, and the Chewbacca-looking guy falls to his knees. Now they're all at each other. Daniel has a mirage of his dad, and that sucks. That's got to sting, right? Seeing Nick Stahl, though, out in the blowing dust reminds me of this underrated HBO gem. Man, should have done a third season. Nick Stahl wakes up with guns to his face, and Bowler and his goons have found him. It's a sad standoff, and now Nick Stahl, or Daniel, is cutting this promo, and he's like, none of you are anything. You're all nothing. You're all a bunch of tall tales my daddy made up. And Bowler snatches the deed from his hands and laughs maniacally, and I don't know what's going on. We kind of spiral through footage as he sees his dad in like a blue flashback, and he snaps awake, and he's back in the canoe. Was it all a dream? He's rows back to land, and he's running through the field back to his house, back to his ma. He made it back. His pa, I guess, was shot. He's still alive, but he's laying in bed. Everyone is sorry. Pa knows Daniel didn't mean any of those mean things he said before he ran off. Dad is like, wait a minute. You had a talk with Pecos Bill, Paul Bunyan, and John Henry, and now Pa thinks the kid's crazy. But then eventually, Dad believes him, and the kid still has the deed. But it doesn't matter anymore, because Pa decided he's selling the land after all. No piece of ground is worth dying for. Pa giving up after all this. The boy snaps at his dad, and someone has to do something. Nick Stahl walks with a swagger to the meeting of the evil landowners that want to take over. Then we cut to a shot of a train going into a tunnel, and I thought suddenly someone was having sex, but no, the boy's heading to the train, not the meeting. Hold on. The train is happening. No, the meeting is happening in the train. So he stands in front of the train. It comes to a complete stop. And now the Bowler guy confronts the kid in the real world. He claims it's time. He claims the time for deeds is over. Amen. As he asks the kid if he thinks he can stop the train, the kid says, I can try. And Bowler says, run him over. Oh. He tries pushing the train back, and all the working class adults just stand there and watch as the train runs over this kid. But he's small, so it didn't kill him. And now suddenly John Henry is there stopping the train with his bare hands. He's real. The goons with guns come out, and suddenly so does Pecos Bill, and Swayze is cutting a promo on them. And Bowler says, Mister, you just killed yourself. And all the guns cocked, but then there's one more, and blah, 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 blah. All the bad guys get their trigger fingers shot off. Can we take a second and appreciate the fact that there's a Disney movie where Patrick Swayze shoots people's index fingers off? Paul Bunyan is smashing the train, and the townspeople join and revolt and push the train backwards out of the tunnel. And I thought someone stop having sex. That doesn't make any sense. They give Stahl the axe for the final blow to collapse the tunnel, but first Bowler comes out of the smoke and is like, stop, kid. You know we're going to win in the end. But the kid, hey, he can't be bought. And the bad guy's like, there's going to be one after me, and one after him, and one after him. As long as there's profit to be had, we'll keep coming. And that's really sadly accurate. And Nick says, not our land. He swings the axe and he collapses the tunnel and kills himself and kills Bowler. But if I know Disney, this is the end of the third act death scare. And I can't even finish that. I can't even finish typing that before Daniel emerges from the dust alive and victorious. We end with Pa and Daniel farming, then getting washed up for supper. Nick Stahl falls back. Maybe next is Bully, right? He's heading to go abuse his friends. Could you imagine if this was a prequel to the movie Bully? He stands alone in the field, and the three have to say goodbye. They're like Frosty the Snowman. There's other kids in other towns who could be murdered by men in bowlers. We gotta go. And I hate that this scene actually has some weight, as he says goodbye and he hugs them. And can we pause and take a second to appreciate there's a Disney movie with Nick Stahl hugging Patrick Swayze. Patrick leaves him his horse. His horse is called Widowmaker. That's a fun horse to give a child. And then he dissolves into a hazy Swayze after he lassoes a tornado. Patrick Swayze lassoes a tornado. That's what I'm talking about. Can we pause and appreciate? No, you don't that. There's a movie where Patrick Swayze lassoes a tornado. The end. That was a fun movie. I love this. Why doesn't anyone talk about this movie? Why doesn't Tall Tale have a giant ride or a whole area in Disney World? Travesty.
What do you think?
What we have is a concern about Curtis Anderson. His interviewing style is not the best. His personal appearance is not the best. I was wondering if the man has some kind of a hold over the channel that he's allowed to be employed for so long with the standards of journalism and personal appearance that he has. Thank you.
Okay, Macy.
I'm still Jenny from the block.